Okay, we're on to the next problem. Our first logarithm, a natural log, and our first definite integral. There will be plenty of definite integrals, so don't get all too comfortable um, with not using your arithmetic skills. There's a funny joke that I always hear all the time that I quote to all the time. Is that you never ask a mathematician or a physicist to do arithmetic. So yeah, that could be your downfall. I know that's definitely mine. Um, so it's always good to really put in the work. So, anyways, when we solved one of our first problems, we set the algebraic function. In this case, we have x to the cube equal to u, or our differentiation column, because it differentiates to 0 eventually. And that's true, but notice when you go ahead and follow the procedure, right? The ln of x is in the integration column, and then boom, we're left with the question, what's the integral of ln of x? So uh, it's not a straightforward uh, integral when you first come across it, but in fact, in the next problem, we're going to solve that integral and then come back, this time without the uh, the limits, because I'm not a masochist, and see how we would solve this if we kept it like this. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and set our d to ln of x and integration to x cubed. Oh, and those are very trivial to differentiate and integrate. So this becomes x to the fourth, 1/4, x to the fifth, 1 over 20. This becomes a 1 over x, and then a minus 1 over x squared. Don't forget your plus minus plus, and follow the procedure. So we get 1/4 ln x, x to the fourth, minus 1 over 20, x to the fourth, and then minus, we get 1 over 20, the integral of x cubed. Oh, that's a trivial one to solve. And we get 1/4 ln x, x to the fourth, minus 1 over 20 x to the fourth, minus 1 over 20. This becomes x to the fourth. Divide by 4, this becomes a 1 over 80. And all of this is evaluated from 1 to 2. And the pain begins. Okay, 1 over 4, we got ln of 2. 2 to the fourth is 16. 16 over 4 is 4. Minus 2 to the fourth is 16. We get 16 over 20. That just becomes 4/5. This becomes a minus 16 over 80. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. You know, in this case, it's the camera, anxiety. But when you're up there on the stage and you're solving what could be the most trivial integral of the day, and you're left with having to just solve some basic fractions or some arithmetic, and then you just freeze up because you're like, oh, my opponent already figured it out. I'm taking way too long, and you just, there's so much noise. Your mind is racing at 1,000 miles per hour. You really, it's really, at the end of the day, the competition is uh, uh, a competition of who can maintain the best composure, because you could be the greatest problem solver in the room, but if you have performance anxiety, you end up being the worst. So, yeah. we plugged in the upper limit. This just becomes a 1 over fifth. 1 over fifth. And then we subtract the lower limit, so this becomes a 1/4 ln of 1. Oh, that just goes to 0. Then we get a 1 over 20, minus 1 over 20. And then we get a minus 1 over 80. Yep. So we get 4 ln 2. This becomes a minus 1. We get plus 1 over 20 plus 1 over 80. This is the same thing as 5 over 80. Simplify. Yeah, 1 over 16. Yeah, so our final solution will be 4 ln of 2. This is just becomes minus 15 over 16. And for the love of God, don't put a plus c. Because you don't need it in the first place, and it's a definite integral, so that's pretty brutal if that happens to you. So yeah, try your hardest not to do that mistake. Yeah. With that, let's move on to the next problem.